Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Lepheana Mosooane.
Never judge a man until you have walked miles in his shoes. One day I was sitting alone in my room, drinking my cold beer as usual. Then I got a call from my closest friend. I quickly grabbed the phone from the table. But before I could answer it, I remembered something. He had gone to a local hospital to do a voluntary medical male circumcision. The first thing that came into my mind was pain. I was scared that he was going to tell me how painful it was. Then I said to myself, maybe he's going to tell me something different. So I decided to pick up the phone. He greeted me, and before I knew it, he said, "Dude, I'm HIV positive." I was shocked. I couldn't believe what I heard. I stared quietly. As if I was watching a horror movie, my mind took me back to the days when I was partying with him day and night. To the days when we would sleep on the same bed and share alcohol and share sex partners. And I said to myself, there's no doubt I'm also HIV positive. But I didn't want to believe it. Then suddenly, I remember that I was on a call. I said to him, "It's okay. We will talk tomorrow." And I dropped the call. As I sat alone, quietly in my room, I remember the time when I was 6 years old, the first time I saw a HIV positive person, and it was on TV. I saw a dark, tall-skinned man in a dirty hospital, and he was grinding his teeth. I said to myself, HIV positive people are not people, and they need to be kept away from the society. I never had a HIV positive neighbor. I never had a HIV positive friend. I never had a HIV positive family member. But here is my closest friend, and he's HIV positive. The following morning we met, and I told myself that I didn't want to quickly show him that I was going to stigmatize him like I was doing with all innocent HIV positive people. So I greeted him with a fake smile. As if he was not reading my mind, he grabbed my hand and greeted me. I was shocked, but I could feel the same touch. He was still my friend. I couldn't feel the HIV virus. I could feel that he's still a human being, just like me. We joked, we smiled, we drank together again. He was still my friend. The desire of going to the hospital to do a voluntary medical male circumcision kept on burning in my heart, but I was scared to do the HIV test. Then one day I said to myself, it's now or never. Off I went to the hospital. I remember sitting alone in the counseling room with a counselor. I felt like I was in prison, and the only keys for my freedom were my HIV test results. The counselor kept on demonstrating the HIV test, but my mind was absent. I could remember there was a woman in my village, and she was selling traditional beer. She was HIV positive. And I was all saying to myself, why would people buy beer from a HIV positive woman? My mind took me back to the days when I was a HIV peer educator, and I was telling people about stigma. But deep down, I was secretly stigmatizing HIV positive people. I told myself that I could not share food with a HIV positive person. I cannot kiss a HIV positive person. But here I was, scared to know my HIV test. As if I was working for my team, the counselor said, "Shall we?" I gave her my finger, and she drew some blood and poured it cautiously on the HIV test card. And we waited for some moments. Every single moment passing, it was as if needles were flowing in my bloodstream. In my life, I have never experienced such long 2 minutes. I didn't know what I was thinking, but I couldn't imagine facing my father. I couldn't imagine facing my mother and telling them that I'm HIV positive. Because I could see them breaking because of all the trust they had. But then again, I still felt that I had a chance. Then the counselor said, "Now it's time to look at the results." At that time, my heart was beating like a throbbing engine of a helicopter. I was sweating. I was weak. I wanted to kill myself, but I was powerless. As they say, curiosity never killed your eye. I looked at the results. I couldn't believe what I saw. I was HIV negative. I was excited. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell the whole world that I'm HIV negative. But then again, I thought of all those thousands and thousands of men who are scared to know their HIV status because of stigma. At that moment, I made a pledge that every HIV program that I work on, I'll establish a revolution against stigma. Because I realized that more than half of people who are killed by HIV/AIDS are not killed by the virus, but they're killed by stress and stigma. It's not HIV/AIDS that kills, it's stress and stigma. Stigma is in our hearts, and it's for us to make it live or to kill it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lepheana Mosooane.